If you ever watch a massive flock of birds flying together in the sky, it's really beautiful to look at.
Oh, for sure, it's mesmerizing.
Right, like one of those swirling giant clouds of movement. It looks almost choreographed, like there's this master plan behind it all.
It really looks like a single organism, just moving with absolute purpose.
Yeah.
But the biological reality is actually the exact opposite.
Wait, really?
Yeah, there is no grand plan
It,
at all. Every single bird in the middle of that cloud is just, well, they're just reacting in real time.
they're just watching the bird immediately to their left, right, or the bird immediately to their right.
Exactly. If the bird next to them dips, they dip. If it swerves, they swerve.
And I mean, while that is an incredible survival mechanism in nature, when human beings do it, we entirely lose our sense of direction.
We completely lose the plot.
We really do. And today we're doing a deep dive into a manifesto from the streetwear brand BKLEO. And this text argues that making the psychological shift between following a trend and setting a standard is like the ultimate separator between being average and being exceptional.
It's a huge shift.
The core premise they hit you with right away is pretty blunt, actually. It says, if you're following trends, you're already behind.
Which is a really heavy claim to make,
Yeah.
especially coming from a brand operating in the clothing space,
Yeah.
an industry that is entirely built on the concept of seasonality and what's quote unquote in right now.
Yeah, I feel like they're biting the hand that feeds them a little bit.
It does. But while the text originates from this streetwear mindset, it becomes clear very quickly that this is actually a framework for human behavior.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time something is solidified enough in the culture to be recognized by the masses as a trend, the originators, the people who actually lead, they've already moved on.
They're already building the next thing.
Right. So the central question the text really forces you to answer is whether you are navigating your own life or if you're just reacting to the flock.
Okay, let's unpack this because I think people assume following a trend is just, a completely neutral act, like it's just participating in culture.
Sure.
But the manifesto suggests there is an active penalty for doing it. Let me push back on that a bit, though.
Yeah.
Why is the pull so strong if it's supposed to be bad for us?
Well, it's biology, really.
Because it feels incredibly safe to blend in, right? You get validation, you avoid criticism. There is that deeply ingrained human belief that if absolutely everyone is doing it, well, it must be right.
Yeah, let's look at the biology of why it feels safe.
Yeah.
Evolutionary psychology tells us that for early humans, blending into the tribe literally meant survival.
Right. You couldn't survive alone.
Exactly. If you stood out or if you were ostracized for being different, you lost the protection of the group. In the ancestral environment, isolation meant death. Plain and simple. So your brain's threat detection center, the amygdala, is wired to trigger a stress response when you deviate from the norm. It hurts to look different. It feels comfortable to adopt what the crowd has already deemed acceptable because your brain tells you, okay, we are safe here.
So following the trend is basically the path of least biological resistance.
That's a great way to put it.
It's kind of like relying completely on someone else's GPS. Like, sure, you don't have to think about the route and you might not get lost in the short term, but you are completely failing to build your own internal map.
Yes.
If that GPS suddenly shuts off, you are stranded, completely lost in your own neighborhood.
What's fascinating here is that analogy actually gets right to the hidden danger the text outlines. It's about cognitive dependency.
Cognitive dependency, okay?
Yeah, following trends doesn't just dictate the outer layer of your life, like the jacket you buy or the slang you use. It systematically alters how you process decisions. Every single time you copy instead of create or react instead of decide, you are training your mind to seek external approval.
You're conditioning yourself.
You are actively conditioning yourself to avoid risk.
Wait, let me pause on that idea of cognitive dependency for a second. Are you saying that by making a seemingly harmless choice, like jumping on a viral social media trend or buying a popular style of shoe, we're actually deteriorating our ability to make bigger, more important, independent choices?
Exactly. Over time, that dependency becomes your default operating system. You literally stop asking yourself, what do I believe? Or what do I actually like?
Your whole internal monologue shifts.
Right. Your default filtering mechanism for any new information or choice becomes what is popular right now, or how will the group perceive me if I do this?
That is so insidious.
The text explicitly calls this out as the death of originality. When you outsource your identity to the crowd, you lose the ability to self-generate standards.
Which brings up a really crucial reflection point for anyone listening to this right now. If you look at your routines, your career, or even, the way you manage your team, where are you outsourcing your decisions to the crowd just to feel that biological safety we talked about?
It's a tough question to ask yourself.
It really is. Because the text provides the antidote to being consumed by trends is establishing standards.
And the contrast they draw between the two is really the anchor of this whole philosophy.
Right. Let me pull up the list they have here. They say trends, by definition, are temporary, external, driven by hype, and designed for mass consumption.
Very fleeting.
Yeah. And then standards, on the other hand, are consistent, internal, built on personal values, and designed for longevity.
It's night and day.
But let me play devil's advocate again here. Because ignoring all trends just sounds exhausting. What if a trend is actually objectively useful?
Give me an example.
Well, like the shift to remote work was a massive trend. Or smartphones, that was a trend. Even oversized clothing and streetwear is a trend, but it's also genuinely more comfortable than what came before it.
Right.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So are we supposed to be aggressively contrarian just for the sake of it? Because rejecting everything popular seems just as reactive as blindly following it.
And that is the trap a lot of people fall into when they try to break from the mold. They just become professional contrarians.
Right, they just hate everything popular.
Yeah, but the text addresses this distinction perfectly. It is not about the what, it is about the why. It's not about rejecting a tool or a style purely because it gained popularity. The core difference lies in the origin of the decision.
Ah, okay.
The text emphasizes that standards come from within.
So it's all about the filtering mechanism. The question shifts from what's hot right now to what do I stand for and does this fit my blueprint?
Precisely. Let's look at the streetwear context this manifesto comes from, because it grounds this abstract psychology in a very tangible business model. Think about fast fashion.
Okay, yeah.
A fast fashion brand operates entirely on external data. They scrape social media to see what is trending today. They manufacture a cheap version of it in 2 weeks, and they sell it to the flock. Their entire existence is reactive.
It's just an echo chamber.
Right. Now look at a high-level streetwear brand like a BKLEO. They operate on internal standards. They define a very specific aesthetic, a cultural viewpoint, and a level of quality. And they produce what aligns with that standard.
Regardless of what the algorithm says.
Exactly. Sometimes the broader culture catches up and their style becomes a quote-unquote trend, but their internal standard never shifts to chase the culture.
That makes total sense. They aren't waiting for permission from the market. It's like taking the steering wheel back. So if standards are this internal filtering system, how do they actually manifest in the physical world? Because, we can't see someone's internal monologue.
We can't see the monologue, but we see the resulting environment. Our internal standards dictate our external reality. There's a line in the manifesto that captures this dynamic better than almost anything I've read on the subject.
Oh, here's where it gets really interesting. Let me guess the line, because there's one that is actually pretty confronting to read. Is it, your results don't come from what you say, they come from what you tolerate?
That's the one.
Yeah.
It strips away all the aspirational fluff. We all like to say we have high standards, right?
Definitely. We write them in our journals. We put them in company mission statements.
Yeah, but your actual standard isn't the lofty goal you talk about. Your standard is the absolute minimum baseline of what you will put up with before you intervene.
That applies to literally everything. Like if you say you have a standard for a healthy lifestyle, but you tolerate eating junk food 4 days a week, your standard is actually junk food. Or if you manage a team and say your standard is excellence, but you tolerate an employee consistently turning in mediocre work without consequence, your standard is mediocrity. Your physical reality is just a mirror reflecting your internal tolerances.
The harsh reality check. And the text gives us a great way to visualize this by breaking it down into two opposing formulas, specifically looking through the lens of personal expression.
Okay, break those down for us.
For first, there is the formula of the follower, which goes trend, leading to purchase, leading to repeat.
Right. You see the trend on social media, you buy into it to gain that biological safety of the flock, and then the trend inevitably dies. So you have to repeat the cycle when the next wave hits.
Exactly. And the text points out that this is why most people feel so inconsistent. They look in their closet or look at their resume or their business strategy, and they just see a chaotic mess of different identities.
Because they've been constantly shape-shifting to match whatever the external world demanded that month.
You got it. And then you have the formula of the leader, which completely removes the external world from the equation. It goes, Identity leading to standard, leading to expression.
Identity, standard, expression. Notice that trend isn't anywhere in there.
Nowhere to be found. You don't ask what's trending, you ask what represents my core identity. You build a standard around that identity, and your expression of what you wear, how you speak, the products you build is just the natural byproduct.
It's standing out without even trying to.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's not just about clothes, it's a framework for every decision. When something feels off in your life, the source explicitly says, don't look at trends, look at your standards.
So if we have this formula, identity to standard to expression, how do we actually operationalize it? Let's say someone listening realizes they've been stuck in that follower loop. Do they just wake up tomorrow, burn their wardrobe, delete all their social media apps, and declare a chaotic new persona?
I mean, you could, but no.
Because that seems like a recipe for burning out by Tuesday.
A chaotic reset is usually just another emotional reaction, right? The manifesto provides a much more pragmatic approach, a 4-step playbook. It starts with step 1, decide who you are, or more accurately, who you are becoming.
Okay.
The crucial distinction here is that this is entirely about direction, not history.
I really like that distinction. You aren't tied down by the fact that you've been flying with the flock for the last 5 years. You are defining the target coordinates for who you are becoming today.
Exactly. But once you have that direction, you run into step 2, which is the boundary problem. You have to define what you accept and what you don't. You have to figure out what you are willing to tolerate on the road to that target.
Which goes back to drawing that line in the sand regarding your tolerances. The text notes that clarity creates power. Leaders know exactly what they will accept into their lives, and they are fiercely protective of what they reject.
Yes. If you haven't explicitly defined your boundaries, you can't be surprised when external trends or other people's priorities just walk right over them.
Okay, so you define the target identity, and you draw the boundary of what you'll tolerate. But then you hit step 3, which is the wall of human memory and friction. Because it is really easy to be original and principled on a Sunday night when you're planning your week.
No, absolutely. Everyone's a leader on Sunday night.
Right. But how do you prevent yourself from slipping right back into the safety of the flock by Thursday afternoon when you're tired and stressed?
Well, step 3 is building consistency. This is what separates a standard from a mere intention. An intention is something you think about. A standard is something you execute. The text argues that a standard literally does not exist unless it is maintained in repetition.
It's not what you do once when you're feeling motivated. It's what you repeat daily when it's wildly inconvenient.
Exactly. And this naturally transitions into step 4, the final and undoubtedly most difficult phase of this shift. You have to be willing to stand alone.
Yeah, that's the kicker.
When you build consistency around an internal standard instead of an external trend, you are guaranteed to experience friction.
Massive friction. Because we established at the beginning that human beings hate standing out. But the text is uncompromising here. It says looking different, sounding different, or operating your business differently isn't just an unfortunate side effect of setting standards, it is the entire point.
Let's go back to the neurobiology for a moment to understand why standing alone is so difficult. When you ignore the consensus of the group, your brain's anterior cingulate cortex, which processes both physical and social pain, it literally lights up.
Wow, physical and social pain use the same hardware?
Yes. Social isolation actually triggers the same neural pathways as physical injury. Your body is screaming at you to fall back in line, to just wear what everyone else is wearing, or manage your team the way the industry standard dictates. Overcoming that biological urge requires immense conscious effort.
Which is why so few people actually do it. It is physically uncomfortable to be the one bird flying north when the entire swirling cloud is heading south. You're going to look completely out of touch for a little while. You will be on an island.
You really will.
So the real question for you listening right now is, are you willing to sit in that discomfort? Are you willing to endure the short-term friction of looking different and being misunderstood in order to build a foundation that actually lasts?
Because it can feel incredibly isolating at first. You might lose some of the superficial validation you used to get from the crowd. But the manifesto ties this all together with a really profound paradox about influence.
The idea that stepping away from the crowd is actually how you end up leading it.
Exactly. The ultimate paradox of influence is that when you finally stop trying to fit in, you inevitably become more influential. And the mechanism behind that is simple. People do not follow trends forever.
They get exhausted by it.
Yeah, the human brain actually gets fatigued by constant novelty and shape-shifting. Ultimately, what people crave is stability. They follow leaders.
And leaders are recognizable not because they're the loudest in the room or because they're wearing the most outrageous, attention-grabbing thing. They're recognizable because they are unflinchingly consistent in a world where everyone else is just reacting.
They project a sense of internal gravity. Think about the people you genuinely respect in your own life or your industry. They usually have a very distinct way of operating. You know exactly where they stand. They aren't desperately trying to catch the next wave. They are the ocean.
That's a great way to put it.
So what does this all mean? I mean, the text points out that every major cultural shift, every iconic fashion movement, every disruptive business model started with someone who willfully ignored the dominant trend. They set their own tone before the world was ready to catch up.
So what does this all mean? It all comes down to the choice between chasing attention and commanding respect. You can choose to be consumed by the hype. You can wake up every day, look at the bird next to you, and ask, what's everyone doing?
But if you do, you are accepting that you will always be a step behind, dependent on the flock to tell you who you are today.
Trends will always fade, but your standards become your legacy. They are the blueprint you leave behind.
They are. And before we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with a final thought to mull over. The source tells us that every major shift in culture started with someone who ignored the trend. So think about this. If you were to completely ignore the loudest trend in your industry or your social circle tomorrow, what entirely new standard would you be forced to create in the vacuum it leaves behind?
Wow. What new standard would you create in the vacuum? That is a powerful question because it's not just about what you're leaving behind. It's about what you're building in its place.
Exactly.
It's time to stop reacting, stop asking what's everyone doing and start defining what you will tolerate. Break from the flock, build your blueprint, and start commanding respect. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.